But they met
that looks solid.
Those are probably sturdier.
Yeah. Except for the big holes and the things that would slip through.
Details.
Yeah, details, yeah. Fender here, a headlight there, no big deal.
So,
Right. We just film a little bit. See, I could be your producer, John.
We could use you. Talk to Carmen.
Here, going one picture, and
I never get in focus, Sean, that's the problem. You should know that by now.
can you drive a car without a windshield?
Yes,
You can fold it down.
although,
Take it off.
go back to
Because you
my,
can fold them down. You can fold
Yeah,
the window down.
Right.
it has one. I wonder, can you drive it on the road with it down though?
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah,
I think as an individual, you can do whatever you want, just about.
well,
You can ride a motorcycle without a helmet.
Yeah.
Right.
You
that's
can ride
true.
some of the three wheels that you see out there with, there's no windshield.
Nothing.
That's
Right.
true, yeah.
On those.
Those are not cars, though.
Yeah.
No, they're not cars,
I-
but they're.
But still, your point's
motorcycles,
right.
yeah.
I remember back to when Gustin and I at Buick were doing that Around the World in 80 Days Buick thing, that rally. And there was a guy who showed up in Duluth. We showed up and there's a box in the lobby and it's a windshield. And this guy rolls in a two-seater Roadster with a windshield all like big, like too big for the car, all duct taped to the pillars and stuff. He had rolled, broke the windshield, kept driving, and he got stopped, and the cop said, "You can't drive in Montana with no windshield." And so he went to a junkyard, pulled one, duct taped that. It was Picasso's grandson. That's that, yeah.
Now, there's a
what kind of a
twist to
Buick
the
was
story I
this?
didn't
Yeah.
expect.
What kind of a Buick was it?
No, this was just some, car that was involved in this rally. We were involved in it because we had a Woody wagon from some couple in Iowa that we were supporting. It was great. Got to ride in it through the UP
Hey,
over the Mackinac.
I think we're ready to start.
Here you go.
Let's hit it, Carmen. Watch Autoline After Hours live at Autoline.tv every Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 12 p.m. Pacific. You can subscribe to this podcast for free by searching for Autoline in iTunes, Stitcher, or YouTube.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion. Lear, a global leader in automotive seating and electrical systems. And by Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
All right, everybody, welcome to Autoline After Hours. And how you doing there, Gary?
I'm doing really well. How about yourself, John?
I just love doing this show, so I'm doing pretty good right now.
So I don't want to start this show on a downer, but I think that we can't let the show go by without saying we lost a good friend, Jim Dunne, who transformed this industry by being the guy who created spy photography in many ways.
I'm not sure that he was the first. People are crediting him. I'm not sure that he was the first, but he was by far the most famous. Nobody else even comes close to what he did. But yeah, quite a character.
Rich, storied career, and I know that we've all had a lot of fun with him, and you guys probably had less fun with Jim.
A lot of travels, yes. You familiar with the ranchette?
I'm familiar with Jim. I've saw some of the articles on him.
So just so everybody knows, a couple of the voices that you just heard there is Bob Gritzinger from Ward's Auto is here with us today.
Ward's Intelligence now.
Ward's
Bear that in mind, yes.
Yeah.
We've gotten smarter since the last time we saw you.
Yes, that's what they tell me.
Geez, I need a title like that.
I'm trying.
Make me smarter. And we got to tell everybody, we got Mark stumbling over your last. Bosanac. It's the head of Mopar North America. And great having you here on the show, too.
Pleasure to be here. Thank
And
you.
he brought us a toy.
Well, what a toy. This is the Jeep Gladiator, totally tricked out. You guys call this the Gravity.
Call this the
Fill in a
Gladiator.
few more details on this.
Yeah, so this is the all-new Jeep Gladiator. This is the Gravity, and it started out as a concept back early in March of this year. We took it out to to the Eastern Moab event. And since then, now it's become a reality in the sense that all the things that you see on there right now are available in the marketplace today. So this one in particular, you can kind of see we got our 2-inch lift kit, Jeep Performance Part lift kit on this vehicle. We've got our tube steel doors, rock rails, sits on some 17-inch, 35-inch mud tires. And it has even a unique thing in the back with the bed. It's a unique Mopar designed bed storage system in the back. So shelves that you can pull out, lockable, and you can still have that and store stuff up on top. So it's kind of like one of these things where we love Jeep, we love the brands that sit within the FCA portfolio, because Mopar, we get to have a lot of fun with them. And it's really about what we continue to do, and that is, customers are looking for personalization. And this is one of the aspects of how Mopar we kind of bring to the family, we call it, adding value. We add the value by being able to do these personalized things for consumers. And from an accessory standpoint, this particular vehicle now is doing better than any vehicle in our portfolio in terms of the what people are paying for an accessory. So over $1,000 on average is what consumers are paying for to accessorize a Gladiator, because it's a beast of SUV, it's a beast of a truck. You put them together, and this is what we now are able to do. And when I talk about the value that we bring with Mopar, and we tie this in, is that the first piece of what we call our mission, our value back to the company is that we add value by being able to help on that personalization journey for customers. And we do that from an accessories. That's the first kind of stage of the process of the customer journey when you're going to go buy the vehicle. And the second big thing that we looked at about what our mission is, and that's really enhancing and supporting the customer along their journey. So I kind of wrap it all in this big thing and sum it up and say it's all about the customer experience. That experience continues to kind of evolve and change, though. As we talked a little bit earlier about how things are changing a little bit in the marketplace. You've always talked about maybe after sales as a service or a part, some hardware. Now it's going to continue to evolve, both in that, but also in services.
Mark, we assume everybody knows what Mopar is, but I'm sure that there are some out there who don't completely understand what your mission is in terms of, you're involved, the part of FCA and so on. So talk a little bit about what it is and what it does for the company at large.
Yeah, I think it's a well-known brand. It's been around for 80 plus years. And it's continued to evolve in those 80 years. So there may be some that don't know about it. Maybe if you're not in the automotive sector, you might not know about it. But if you're anything in the automotive, you sniff it and you understand what Mopar is about. But the value that we kind of focus on and bring right now is that from, I'll call it the hardware piece and how we go about the accessorization. I've talked before about how customers want to continue to personalize themselves, and they continue to want to personalize their vehicles. And part of that is because it matters to the customer, it matters a lot to us as well then. So we've put up 14 different, custom shops around our North American assembly plants. We processed over 420,000 vehicles in 2018 with some form of an accessory that went into those vehicles, going from spray and bed liners to tonneau covers to wheels and et cetera. So that kind of continues. I call it the first stage of that customer journey, is being up front in that space, and that gets our foot in the door. And now we continue on with all the different services we provide. So Mopar has all of the customer care responsibilities for FCA and the brands. In addition to that, we offer Mopar Vehicle Protection Program service, contracts that add value as well. So we kind of view ourselves as almost like we're the shepherds. We're the shepherds for the customer.
You handle all parts for the company too, right? Not just customization, but repair parts.
All service, all repair parts. So and the dealership technicians and the training and the readiness of our dealer network for that. So we kind of say, hey, we're the shepherds. We're going to be there for our customer throughout their whole journey and their participation with us in the life cycle. And our focus right now is continuing to kind of evolve that overall experience. And one is on the accessories, so I call it the hardware piece of it. Then the next gets into really the services side of it. Not only from, to your point, John, the hardware service of repair parts and that, but now as we look at things moving further and further into connected vehicles, customers want to be connected both online, offline, and in their vehicles. So we kind of took a step back and evaluated all those different pieces of the journey and our support to that. And one of the big things is like online. So now it's 70% of that, I'll call it the first step, is an online experience. I'm shopping for parts, services, accessories. So we revamped our website earlier this year in June. And we really took an approach to make it very app-like, right? Simple, easy, 3 clicks I can get to the places and spaces that I need to get to. Made it easier to be able to buy products and services on there, and for scheduling services at the dealership. I want to get scheduled in for service. So since then, we've been able to increase visits by 10%. We've seen a significant uptick in terms of people now scheduling online for services, and we've seen about an 80% increase in terms of our e-store sales. So it said we did something right there, that the customer is responding to that. And really where we see the next phase of this going now is the connected vehicle and the elements around those things, not just in terms of, we'll call it the telematics into the vehicle, but the services now. Right. Customers are looking for more services.
I'm going to get back to this gravity, though. So I see Bob has his eye on it. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that Bob wants to buy this.
Yeah. What? How many parts go into this? First of all, you mentioned $1,000 worth of parts. This is more than.
That's more. This one here, you wrap that all one. You just got to add a zero.
Couple zeros. Did this one go to Moab?
Okay, but we got a question from South Carolina Osprey. Wants to know, what would be the MSRP on a Gravity?
Yeah.
You got to take the model of the Jeep. I'm not sure what the MSRP is on this, but if you tack on all of the features are here, about $10,000 for all the accessories.
You get the.
That looks pretty good. That
get the
sounds
graphics
reasonable
too.
to me, right?
Do you get all the graphics too? Gravity.
Yep.
The cool cliff
climber
there. Yeah.
In fact, we got another question on that. Catherine wants to know, why did you choose a woman for the decals on the sides? Is that a woman?
There's a woman there.
Well,
on the
there's
screen.
Oh, on the
one
screen,
side,
on
and
the
then
screen.
on the other side, it's a guy.
Yeah.
I think on both sides of the vehicle, you've
Got different graphics.
Okay.
all in a mail.
So why'd you choose a woman?
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I bet
She's
you
on the
women
driver's
are,
side, too.
women are out climbing mountains too.
Yeah.
That's right.
So the car is built in the assembly plant. It leaves the assembly plant and goes to a Mopar facility. Then Mopar technicians go at it and put on or take off, or.
So it leaves the assembly plant. After it goes through the assembly plant, then we have our certified upfit shops that basically update, put on the particular elements that go to the vehicle, and then we route it back through the transportation system and ship them into their dealerships.
And then when Bob goes to the dealer to buy this is all wrapped into his.
You can go ahead. You can finance these things, and when you purchase the vehicle, because you're not pulling them back off. They're included in the MSRP.
How do you get the dealers to do that, the salespeople? Because salespeople believe, oh, geez, people don't want a higher price on anything. They try to keep it down. I know other companies have struggled with trying to get the salespeople. No, upsell these things.
Price, I've been around about 30 plus years here. Price is in the eye of the beholder. And I think that's the thing that we've been able to do, is continue to build the value into what those accessories are. And it becomes an easier selling proposition for the salesperson. And that's one of the key things that we went forth with, was really to kind of build the total product and process in, so it's easy when the vehicle's there, it's already upfitted, and it's now easy for the salesperson then to manage it. And it also frees up the dealership from their capacity as well, where they can then focus on in their shop on, we'll call it, servicing that they need to do for vehicles, where this has already been done, so they don't have to do any work on a vehicle to do customization and put stuff on. We still offer that as well, but we've helped to kind of improve dealer capacities by taking the larger type items, and we specialize in taking care of that for the dealership, and the vehicle shows up all customized and ready to go.
And is it covered by the warranty?
Yes,
So in other words, if
it's covered, covered under warranty.
so if Bob bought the Gladiator and he didn't get any of that stuff,
Right.
I'm getting you.
You better buy one, Bob, after this show.
Yeah.
And he decided that he would go to an aftermarket supplier to get whatever. And he took the doors off or took this off, that off, or whatever. So that's perhaps even could
That would be-
void the warranty in some cases.
You risk yourself in terms of those elements, in terms of damages to the vehicle from an aftermarket. That's why we really encourage our dealerships and our salespeople to sell the, I'll call it the Mopar proposition here, with our brands jointly, because then you're covered for those things. If there's anything that does break, need replacement, you're covered under our warranties.
Do you change anything in the, you talked about connectivity. Are there any changes related specific to Mopar in the head unit in
You're
any of that
you've
software?
probably seen a little bit about what we've got going on right now, and that's going to kind of continue to evolve. So from a connectivity standpoint, we've partnered up with Harman and Google as we kind of build out a new platform. There's two things that we're doing. One is, I'll call it the services piece. So through Uconnect, we'll have Umarket.
Okay.
In that, the Uconnect market is going to be able to offer services. You want to make reservations at a restaurant, you want to order Domino's pizza, you need to get to Park Wizard and find a parking spot. These are services that we're launching later this year
Through
the
but
head.
that's all through Uconnect
through
itself.
the radio system, the head unit, all there. That's the start, but we also have connected vehicles already today, where you have further services, which we provide a vehicle health report. So this is through a telematics box module, and we've got about 40% of our fleet right now as we build that. That's happening. By the time we as a company get to, say, beginning of 2022, our entire fleet within FCA will be connected vehicles. And what's important about that is then it will allow us to do a number of things for the customer. And this is about enhancing that customer services experience. One is such as the vehicle health report, which we offer today. In that, you get every month an update on your vehicle. How's your oil? How's your tires? Do you have an open recall? And in that, we've seen a 6% increase in retention for customers that have a connected vehicle and they get those health reports. We've seen a 29% improvement in terms of a recall because those people now are being noticed, through the head, through the vehicle, and they're more apt then to come back, because I think a lot of people get a piece of paper in the mail and they tend not to pay enough attention to it. Despite us doing a lot of different things to continue to communicate in that way, people still, if it's in your face, they now say, oh, I can go ahead and schedule. So those are like some of the things in that respect that we're going to do. But the TBM is also going to then to give us the diagnostic information in a different way. Predictive type information to say, hey, it's time, your maintenance, this thing needs to be happening for you. We'll be able to do more over-the-air type updates, similar you get on your phones and everything else. So this is going to continue to provide convenience to the consumer. It'll enhance that experience for the customer as well. And those are some of the things that the connected vehicle will continue to provide, along with, mileage-based type services and features that will come. So
For the customer who owns the vehicle, are they seeing themselves going through Mopar to get this? Or Mopar is just the back end that makes it all happen and their brand is Ram or Dodge or whatever?
they're going to still feel the connection and have that connection through the brand. We're going to be the mechanism through Uconnect and the services that they're going to see. So they're still going to probably still feel like and want, which they should be, I'm a Ram brand owner, I'm a Jeep brand owner. That's what they know. But they also know that through the Ram vehicle, the Ram truck, or the Jeep, Grand Cherokee, whatever it may be, here I'm seeing the information that's flowing through to me. These are all the services I now have available within my radio head. This is the contact points that we'll make.
So this is huge growth opportunity for Mopar.
So I think it's important when we continue trying to look to enhance and we call it, we're supercharging that customer experience. These are the elements that will help us do that for the customer, because our goal is continue to enhance that, improve the retention, and then usually everything else works out after that. If you can do that.
Speaking of supercharging, though, we got to talk about the Mopar Special Edition vehicles that you guys have been doing since model year 2010. Which
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I mean, because these things are limited edition and phenomenal.
And you
Brought a
announced
little
it today.
information about it.
Yeah.
I
So,
believe.
so just today,
Anything you need to know.
we just launched and announced today the Mopar 19 Dodge Challenger. This is now the 10th year of what I'll call, we're kind of celebrating a
got
decade of
pictures up here.
a decade
Oh,
of
there you go.
customization. So you can see this is the Mopar 19. We collaborate with our Dodge brand, and like I said, we've been doing this for 10 years. So it joins the other Challengers. We started out in 2010 with the Dodge Challenger, so it's fitting to have the 10th anniversary be a Dodge Challenger as well. But this will come in two colors. We got pitch black and white knuckle. And some of the unique features will be that stripe that you see coming through the hood all the way to the back. It's unique Mopar color, not available in any other vehicle. We got our unique Mopar designed shaker hood. We'll have a unique Mopar design badge to it on the interior. It'll be fitted with performance seats with a Mopar embossed logo built in there. Along we've got some 20-inch wheels on there. Personalized badge for the customer will be included. So these are kind of the little unique things that we have continued to do over the years. And it's part of that, I'll call it the right amount of seasoning. Not too many, just the right amount. But it also kind of continues to enhance the Mopar brand, where we've got this, performance heritage. It's authentic, and it's very much Mopar, and that kind of continues to bring things together for us, both in that respect, because that's our heritage, but our other heritage is really about being the customer care brand for FCA, and we continue to build on that.
And this
You
is
mentioned
this
making
is-
100 of those
This
cars.
is limited
Well, yeah.
limited edition, 100 of these.
Yeah, we've been
MSRP.
doing
And if
very
you're
limited.
for those Canadian watchers, 10.
Well, we only get 90, so.
You get 90.
All right.
Hey,
Yeah.
but
So the package is just for the Mopar package is $29.95 for I'm sorry, $2,995 for that. The overall total vehicle is about just over 45,000, under 46,000
Really?
MSRP.
right, and this is the 392. So yeah,
Yeah, no,
With
that's
the stick.
these days that's pretty good price.
yeah.
That's a very good price. And
You've done how many of these special editions?
the 10th. This
The
is the
10th
10th
one,
one,
but
yeah.
volume-wise, how many?
so we've done this will put us over 4,000 vehicles now.
Okay. And it
over the 10
includes
years.
everything from Challengers to
I was going
the
through the
Dart,
list, yeah.
the Ram
We've had
Rebel,
Chargers, Challengers, Darts, 300s, Ram Rebels, and
little
Durangos.
bit of everybody's
So
been touched.
sprinkling,
Maybe not
quite
the
a few.
Pacifica minivan. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I want to go back to your special edition car here, though, because the names.
picture.
You've
Oh,
got
yeah.
white knuckle, and
Yeah,
you've got pitch black. But I know when you guys were first talking it to the media, you were going to call it Black Bitch.
Yeah, there's a different name I think that's being circulated around, so I think we toned it down a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that was going to that was going to hit the headlines if you went with that.
Yeah,
What kind of people buy these vehicles?
enthusiasts. We really get, when I talk about the Mopar brand, there are some people that they live, die, and breathe Mopar. It's interesting, out in Denver, we have the event, the Mile High races that we're out there at, and there's a Mr. and Mrs. Mopar out there. They got married at the place, they come back, they celebrate every year. We got people tattooing themselves with the Omega M. So I think it kind of just is that right amount of seasoning that we like to talk about, that it's about Mopar.
Well, you're throwing
we
some
can do that.
wicked crate engines out there too. I mean, earlier this year you announced the 1,000-horse
The Hellephant.
Hellephant.
Yep.
Yeah, that somebody can drop into their 1975 Challenger and come up to speed and beyond.
Yeah, we had a heck of a response on that one. The demand was more than we expected it was going to be. So we're looking to see if we can kind of figure out if we can build more of those.
Does hot rod culture, I mean, which plays a big role in Mopar, I mean, do you see that as being robust, or is it going down a bit?
Well, I think it's there's an affection that people have, an affinity of vehicles, And as long as that affection and affinity of vehicles exists, I think it'll continue. The vehicle will continue to evolve, right? You guys have been around, you've seen it, it's continued to evolve, and we all thought that the muscle car was dead. Well, the muscle car, rejuvenated. And I think as the industry continues to move in its next set of, call it propulsion type systems and that, I don't think anybody's going to want to get away from performance.
Hey, we've got a number of questions coming in here. Real quick, Gerhardt wants to know, does the Gravity have a Hellcat in it?
Not right now.
Good question, Kit. Okay, Mike Flowers wants to know, will Mopar get into 3D personalized parts? 3D printed.
Well, a great question. The previous role that I had was in the supply chain world, and I think that's another forefront of where industry is going to continue to evolve, and you see it. I've worked with some other companies, and we're looking at the technology, and it evolves. You can have plastics and you can have metals, but I think stay tuned. I think that's going to continue to evolve from a need standpoint in the industry.
Yeah, Barry Rector from Indy wants to know, what are the age demographics for your Dodge brand products?
Dodge, actually, I saw this the other day. I can only quote what I think I saw was that it actually has one of the lowest ages in
Well, that's
the
for
segment.
the Dodge brand, but what about for the Mopar product?
You know what? I don't know. I'd have to look and see. I can't tell you what that is.
Chris heard you talking about over-the-air updates. He wants to know, does that include nav and the entertainment systems?
Yeah, those things will continue to become as a services that we'll be able to update over the air.
Okay, and Sky Malcolm says, the more cylinders and MSRP, the heavier the depreciation. How do these specialty cars hold up over time from a depreciation standpoint?
You know what, John? I don't know what the numbers are on that, but I haven't heard anybody needing to turn their vehicles in because they
just keep them.
They keep them.
That's pretty good.
So Bob was being dismissive of the Pacifica because he has his eye on that thing. But,
Well, right, yeah. 'cause,
So
yeah.
does
Actually, I'm
Mopar
after
have
this
stuff
Challenger,
for
but-
things like the Pacifica?
Absolutely, it's a life. We could call it a life stage or a lifestyle vehicle. Some people like it in total because that's what they want in their lifestyle, and other people they use it as a life stage vehicle. So we offer a number of accessories in the back, above. We have also entertainment systems that are in the vehicle as well that we
Not
we
built to
help
be a tire burner, though, to be clear.
Not yet.
But a pet hauler,
It could.
yeah.
tire carriers, luggage carriers. Even though you may have a lot of kids, you might need more room than just what's in the vehicle. You might have to go above.
You could drop that elephant in there, and
Transverse, elephant. Yeah,
they got a lot of room in those things. So
that's true.
they do.
Heat dissipation, that would be key with the family and an elephant.
With the family.
Yeah.
Well, good. We're probably getting to the point where we should wrap this segment up, but Mark Bosanac, thanks so much for coming on and filling us in where Mopar is and where it's going to go in the future. It looks like the future is pretty bright.
Well, I hope so. I appreciate getting an opportunity just to kind of share a little bit about what Mopar is and where we're going and what we're going to continue to focus on. I appreciate it,
And
gentlemen.
we absolutely appreciate you bringing this vehicle in.
Yeah.
Which,
I'm taking it back, though.
yeah,
I
sorry,
know, I think
sorry, Bob.
Did that one go to Moab? Did I ask that question? This
That one did,
particular
yeah.
vehicle?
Yeah, it did.
That's pretty quick. From Moab to having it available right now, that's moving pretty quick.
And somebody could go to a Jeep dealer right now and order this?
You can order most of the accessories that are available on that vehicle, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think that's the other thing, just to point out, that being part of the family, we engineer these accessories as the vehicle develops. So when the vehicle launches, the accessories are ready. Nobody else can do that. And on top of that, so then you obviously have engineered, backed parts done in concert with the vehicle engineers.
And plus, the design guys are able to look at it and say,
Yeah, we work with those design guys too.
It's got
Ralph and the team are very, very supportive of Mopar and what they've done. He's really done a bang-up job for us over the last few years as well.
Cool. Well, thanks again. Really appreciate your time.
Very
here.
much.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to be coming right back. We got a lot of things to talk about what's going on in this auto industry. Woo, some good ones. We'll be back in a moment.
The world is changing at an ever-increasing pace. No matter what the mode of transportation, there is always the need for an efficient propulsion system. And that's exactly what BorgWarner has been doing since the earliest days of the automotive industry. We create innovative mobility technologies that reduce energy consumption and emissions while improving performance. Our proven track record has made us an industry leader in forward-looking propulsion solutions for combustion, hybrid, and electric vehicles.
Lear Connexus offers a parental controls application with geofencing that sends notifications regarding driving behavior and location, including curfew alerts, acceleration alerts, and speed alerts, all delivered to a smartphone application that includes vehicle location, driver notifications, and a report card of driving history, including notifications when predefined geographic boundaries are crossed. For more information, visit lear.com.
All right, we're back. And it's time for Dr. Data.
Okay, so I was looking at some numbers. What a surprise that is!
Yeah.
And it was very startling that I was looking at oil prices, and oil prices actually in the month of August basically started at $53.95 per barrel and almost closed the month at almost exactly the same price. So it was very stable. So then I got to thinking to myself, none of us buy barrels of oil, right? We buy gasoline. So, Katie, could you please bring up the first number here? So I went back and I looked in the last 10 years, okay? And what was the lowest price for a gallon of gasoline in the United States, and what was the highest
Now,
price?
this is the average.
This is the average price, okay, across the country. Across the country.
Unleaded regular.
This is just the EIA number of gasoline. Okay, so next, please. I want you guys to tell me see how close you can get to.
Oh.
If you can get to year and month or just year even. Okay, so when was it $1.84 a gallon and when was it $3.96 a gallon?
Okay.
Oh, this is a toughie.
Okay.
So,
And I will say it is surprising. You will be surprised. Okay, so if we're looking from 2009 to 2019.
yeah, okay, so I'll go first then. Or you want to go first, Bob?
I'm gonna go 396 in 2015. It's probably too late, and $1.84 in 2011.
Okay, I'm going to say 396 in 2009 and $1.84 in, Bob said 2011, right? Yeah. So I'm going to say 2012.
Okay. Well, John, I must say that I'm very glad that you picked that 394 for 2009. So Katie, please bring up the answers. 2009 was $1.84, January of 2009. I mean, that's the thing that is just, and see, Bob, and then you sort of got the opposite because it was 2011 when it was the most expensive. Now, the thing that was shocking to me was that, because remember 2008, 2009, gasoline prices were basically going through the roof.
Yeah,
right?
Right.
But then the whole economy collapsed.
The economy cratered, and but boy, you try to think back to when did your phone start ringing with people owning big SUVs and trucks saying, what do I buy to get out of this?
Right.
I need a different
Gotta trade
vehicle.
in my
And I was
big
trying to
Mercedes for
think
a
back to
Prius.
that,
Right.
And I was just off.
And and you think about it. So as your point was that the economy collapsed and gasoline prices went down. So it almost seems that with the roiling that we're now seeing in the economy, especially in the world economy, that we're going to probably not see increase in gasoline prices, because as the economy goes down, so too do the gasoline prices, which brings us to the point of, since we've last done the show, the tariffs that were announced by China, and which could have some considerable effect on manufacturers in the United States, companies like BMW and Mercedes, which basically have their global centers of excellence for SUV manufacture in places like Greer, South Carolina, and Vance, Alabama.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about that? So apparently, come December 15th, there'll be a 25% tariff on vehicles coming from the United States.
On top of an existing 25%.
Yeah.
So that's a 50% tax on anything made in the U.S. going to China.
Right. And that's, I mean, how do you sell an SUV in China? How do you sell a Mercedes, what is it called now?
It's got a G in there
I
somewhere.
lose track of it. G
Look,
something.
Up to now, it has
GLE.
a problem. You know, they've had this
Right.
25% tax, and the Chinese are willing to pay for them.
Right.
Partly because there's a perception that Chinese-made stuff is not as good as imported stuff, at least amongst luxury brands. So Mercedes, BMW, et al. Have had no problem shipping stuff in. And there's another advantage for them, too. If you make a car in China, you have to have a partner.
Right.
You got to give them half your profit. If you import the vehicle, the profit's all yours. So they've actually liked, you know, the European luxury makers have liked building stuff in the U.S. and/or Germany and shipping it into China because they get all the profit. But, you know, Chinese market is slowing down way more than anybody saw coming. No one expected it to slow down, certainly not to this rate. Throw another 25% tariff on top of that, it's going to hurt BMW and Mercedes. They make a lot of profit on those vehicles.
Well, they will still make the money on them. They just won't sell as
They're
much.
just not going to sell nearly as many.
Exactly, like, you know, the Chinese are paying for our tariffs. Remember that. No, so it goes both ways.
Oh.
You see what I mean? The Chinese consumer pays the 50%, not BMW.
You know, and they're very, you know, I mean,
hurts them in sales.
like all the Lincolns that are sold in China are built in the United States.
Right.
And so
Well,
they'll,
but the Continentals they build Continental there, I believe. Because when they shut down
I'm trying to
production
remember what they make
here,
in
they're
China.
going to continue to build them in China.
Yeah,
they sell
although,
a ton of
you know,
Contis over there.
Well, they sell probably more than they do here,
Yeah.
but Continental's not a hot seller.
Right.
And I know Ford, and they had these plans in a year or two ago anyway. They are going to start building stuff in China.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the tariffs will just make them all the more glad that they made that decision. But I want to say Aviator and not the Navigator, but I think it's Aviator and something else is going into China.
Whatever is what's the Escape?
Corsair.
Corsair, is
I think
that a
that's
China
out
car?
there, right?
Yeah.
So you were mentioning companies that go to China and build vehicles and have partners, but there's one that doesn't.
China or Tesla,
Tesla, right?
right?
And you know, so there's reports that Tesla's going to try to like front load a whole bunch of Model 3s over there in anticipation of their factory opening, which as we've recently seen in some photographic evidence that it'll be opening soon, it seems.
Well, yeah. I mean, it looks like the walls are up, the roof are on, a lot of equipment's in the plant. It looks like to me, based on those photos, they're going through tryouts right now. Even though Elon today, I think, said, here's the first Chinese-made Model 3. Mm-hmm. Believe me, that thing was just about hand-assembled. It's not a true production version in the sense that, you know, they're not rolling down the line at 60 a minute or 60 an hour. Yeah. And so it's still very impressive how fast Tesla has come up to speed with this. But just to trot out one car and say, voila, we've done it.
Come on, this is Tesla. What do you expect?
Right. Yeah.
But I mean,
Surprised they actually showed a car.
I mean, think about it. I mean,
Here are pictures of the car. Trust us.
Yeah.
We built this.
but a $2 billion investment in Shanghai to build that factory, which is
It's a lot of money.
it is a very, very stiff amount of money to be.
Yeah, but with the latest tariffs, you know, Tesla's obviously going to be very glad they're manufacturing in China. And you're right. Because they came in late, China had changed the rules of the game and said you no longer have to have a Chinese partner. Right. So they are, I believe, the first foreign automaker to open up its own assembly plant, build cars without having a Chinese partner.
I'm ahead of the game, yeah. Yeah.
So I mentioned at the top of the show that we lost Jim Dunne. Ferdinand Piech has died, the man who who I would argue created Volkswagen Group as we know it today, a guy who could arguably be said was perhaps the last automotive titan, although I did find somebody else that I'll get to in a moment.
Okay, you'll get to it.
But
I hear
so I mean,
There's got to be one or two still.
so here's the guy who's the grandson of Porsche,
Ferdinand
Porsche, the guy who started it all.
original,
Who started it all, and then he
built
worked
the
at
Beetle.
he worked at Porsche for a number of years, and was an engineer. And I thought this was interesting. After successful design of an oil cooler for the Type 904 race car, and a 180 horsepower six-cylinder race engine, Piech became the head of the testing department at Porsche in 1966. I mean, think about this. This guy is making he's working on an oil cooler. We just think of this guy as being this grand, eloquent business person, but he clearly was into it. The six-cylinder Boxer engine is credited to being developed under his watch.
Right.
In fact, he did one of my all-time favorite race cars, the Porsche 917.
That's right, in 1969.
And, I mean, today that car still looks contemporary by race car standards.
And it was
He also did the Phaeton. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I'm just
The
saying.
Volkswagen Phaeton,
Yeah.
right, which was an
and
abysmal failure.
so this was his plan, that he wanted to elevate the Volkswagen brand
Right.
in some ways, and of course he ended up elevating the entire group by buying Bugatti and buying Lamborghini and buying Bentley.
Right.
So I mean, here's this man who put all of these elements together. He brought in Skoda as 100% for the lower end of things, not luxury. Bob, I know that's you have your eye on luxury. I know what kind of guy you are. And
Hey,
I
and
just
we
want to.
also got to add, he really built Audi into what it's today.
Right.
Absolutely.
It was interesting that basically what it was that so what happened is in the early 70s that the ownership structure of Porsche changed and family members had to leave. So he left and went to work for Audi,
Right.
and
Developed Quattro.
where the
Right.
Quattro was developed
Yeah.
at the time. And so he was the CEO of Volkswagen Group till 2002, but he continued on as chairman of the supervisory board until 2015. And we all know what happened later in 2015.
The diesel he stepped down just literally weeks before the diesel emission scandal broke.
I read that he had a progression plan in place where his wife was going to take over for him as chairman of the board, right? And then they both got out.
Well, and
Just
then
ahead of-
Winterkorn
just ahead of
had
the
the
diesel
job,
thing.
and then Piech didn't like that because I didn't realize that his wife was
Yeah,
waiting in the
that
wings,
was-
waiting in the wings expectantly.
Yeah, I got to know Piech a little bit. Audi had a trip some years ago in the Sahara Desert. And there was a small group of us journalists that were invited to go take part in part of their summer testing program. And that's where they test in the summer, is in the Sahara Desert. And we drove Audis from a place called El Golea in Algeria to another place, half a day away, called Timmy Moon. And the whole idea was get out on the highway. It was a pretty good highway, but sand would blow across it. And I didn't know this before. Sand is like ice. I mean, they warned us when you get out on the highway, foot to the floor, don't lift, just drive, full blast all the way to Timmy Moon. We're going to have a nice lunch there, and then we're going to drive all the way back, full blast, foot to the floor. And we want you to drive foot to the floor because we want to punish these cars as much as we could. We got back to El Golea that evening, and Piech had arranged for this platform for him to sit on with his two, literally, right-hand men next to him with a table in front of him and a chalkboard before it, and almost a theater seating arrangement of chairs where all the engineers had to sit down. And that's how they did their debrief. And Piech just firing questions at them. Bam, bam, bam. What about how the sunroof retracted, with sand in there? How did the bearings work on? I mean, just grilled these guys mercilessly. And this went on for like a couple of hours. And then finally satisfied, they folded everything up, and boom, we went off to dinner.
So any question that he would have not known what was going on with the diesel?
Oh, he knew everything, I believe.
I mean, you're working for a guy who, grills people like that, and he says, I want a diesel that meets emissions without SCR for these markets, and I want it by this date, or it's your job.
Yeah.
But,
and the other thing, just to finish that story, because I think it tells something about Piech, is I think it was like 117 degrees in the shade. And we're all like, you just walk out the door, you start sweating, and we're out there, man, we're just hot as can be. And Piech strolls by, not a bead of perspiration on him. And we all thought, yeah, it is part of the super race.
Right, yeah.
So,
Machine.
I don't know if you guys saw it. So Bob Lutz wrote a piece about Piech in Road and Track.
I did read it. Yes.
And I mean, for those of you who have the opportunity, I would strongly recommend you read that, because I mean, Bob is a guy who knows a lot about the industry, and Bob is a guy who is at a level that most of us will never see.
Well, he could be the remaining Titan.
He could be, but he's not.
You don't think so?
No.
No?
But I mean, but the thing is that to hear or to read Bob saying how Piech was such a hard ass, how Piech was so demanding, how Piech was, above and beyond what could be considered. I mean, there was like, he ends the story talking about, how do you get very close gaps? You tell the people that you want it, or you don't have a job.
Yeah, you have 6 months to make this happen.
Yeah.
And Lutz says, I told him, I don't think we can operate that way in America. And basically, Piech said, you're soft.
Yeah, and it's...
You're too soft.
All right, so you think that Lutz could be the last Titan. Who do you think could be the last Titan?
I was going to say Lutz too, but,
Who else is out there?
Well, there's Carlos Going, but he's
that's a problem.
So okay, the way I look at it is that, okay, so here's this guy who creates this giant company, right? He puts together these pieces and builds things that are now globe girding. I mean, they're just everywhere. And I just see one guy who is basically that guy for the 21st century.
Elon Musk.
Nope. Any more?
Well, geez.
And I'm surprised you didn't guess this one, John.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't guessed it either. I'm dying to hear who you think.
Li Shufu.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right.
So he has Geely, he's got Volvo, he's got Lotus, he's got Proton, he's got Lincoln Company, he's got Polestar.
He's got 10% of Daimler.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, good call, Gary. I would agree with that. He's not well known by name, certainly in the West. But this guy, it's funny you bring him up, because I've called him the Henry Ford of China. Mm-hmm. Not that he did a Model T kind of a thing, but this guy has put together an empire. Totally agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that, yeah. And he's operating in the largest market.
Well, and then he's growing this. I mean, when you have Volvo, I mean, which is probably doing as well or better than I can think in recent times, at least.
Right. Mm-hmm. The whole Polestar effort is coming out of China, which may mean they're not going to show up in the U.S. market.
Right. So it's interesting that there still is opportunity for people like that.
This little percentage of Daimler is interesting, because that'll grow.
Possibly, it's almost 10%. Mm-hmm. That's a good chunk.
Yeah.
That's a good chunk. That's enough to demand a board position. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if he'll do that. Mm-hmm. What else you got, Gary?
Push on.
All right, so on another completely unrelated subject, so there was a story in TechCrunch which basically referenced a story that was in the Telegraph of London, where John Rich, who is the operations chief of Ford's autonomous vehicles, said basically that he's not worried about the number of vehicles going down because of autonomous vehicles. He said, and I quote, "We will still exhaust and crush a car every 4 years in this business." So basically making the argument that these vehicles, the autonomous vehicles, will go into fleets, the fleets will run 24/7, and consequently, the cars will wear out in 4 years. John, what do you think?
Well, I've said this before. I believe that the fleets are going to say, hey, Mr. Car Company, I don't want a car that wears out in 4 years. I want something that's going to last 1 million miles. And I, pointed out before that London cabs, which are purpose-built mobility vehicles.
Oh, and they're owned by Geely, too.
No, they're owned by Geely. That's right, yeah. Li Shufu's got that one locked in. But, something like 40% of London cabs are between 10 and 20 years old. And, so I think fleets are going to say, no, we're not going to scrap this vehicle, yank the motor out, put a new one in, reupholster the thing, and send it back out there.
New shocks, new tires, new brakes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's how I believe that fleets are going to approach how they purchase this. And if Ford says, no, we're not going to do that, they'll say, well, get out of the way. We're going to buy it from somebody who will.
Yeah. Well,
There's a London cab up there right now.
that's where the business will be, in that refurbishing of those vehicles. New York cabs.
How
have
old?
gone
I mean, now the
miles.
Crown Vic cabs are starting to disappear.
Yeah.
It seems that they're all Priuses and Escapes.
Yeah.
How long were those old Crown Vics around? A lot more than 4 years.
Oh yeah.
Something
And
to be said
before
for
that,
body on frame, huh?
The yellow cab, the traditional
checker.
boxy checker.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
So Rich had some other interesting quotes there. One of which, so the thing is
So he's counting on the business to the autonomous business to burn through vehicles to keep the plant running.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes, they'll
Yeah.
chew them up because
Right.
of the
Yep. Right.
alleged 24/7 operation. So there's some question. Okay, will autonomous vehicles be electric vehicles? And he said that Ford needs to, quote, find the right balance that will help develop a profitable, viable business model. This means launching with hybrids first, close quote. Do you agree?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I like Ford's strategy on this. I had an engineer tell me the other day that in an electric vehicle that has all the autonomous stuff on it, all the autonomous stuff accounts for 50% of the power load. 50%.
Right.
So if you're going to be all battery, what happens to your range? Whereas if you've got a hybrid, no big deal. You've got all that power, plus you've got, a good driving range. So Ford has always argued from the get-go, these things are going to be hybrids. So very interesting to see General Motors and Tesla going, they're going to be all electric.
So who's right, Bob?
Well, I'm curious where I'm just coming from doing a whole lot of research into 48 volt and how that might apply. You could do a mild hybrid and still have a lot of onboard power for autonomy and those features and those functions. And it seems like that's a really inexpensive way to go.
Well, but here's what I was told. Average electric car right now is 4 kilowatt hours per mile.
Okay.
Add on autonomous, that's another 2 kilowatt hours.
Okay.
So that's the 50% that I was getting at. So would a 48 volt generate 2 kilowatt hours?
I want to say, four. So,
Okay, maybe you're right.
I
then. Maybe
mean,
that could work.
so that could be at least a bridge, and then 2 hybrids before you.
Well, Ford's
try-
talking strong hybrid.
Yeah.
Not a 48
Right.
volt.
They want to build right off of the new Explorer hybrid and
Yeah.
the new Escape hybrid, and here it is, and here's our autonomous version of it.
But doesn't it seem very 19th century that you'd have this autonomous vehicle and put gasoline in it?
Well,
I mean, come on.
Well, but for short,
Come on.
But and still,
Just think about that for
it's
a minute.
entirely possible that they would do that for a vehicle that's going, they know is going to go some longer distances, but they might have a pure electric version for short range.
Well, and maybe this explains the difference between Ford versus GM and Tesla. GM is talking about ride-hailing services at low speed in geofenced areas.
Right.
Okay, so that's a taxi service. And I would, we were talking a little bit before the show, from probably roughly 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning, there ain't going to be a whole lot of taxi service. Ford's idea is to really get this 24/7 usage out of them, is during the day, use it as a taxi service, quickly reconfigure the interior at night, and now it's used for package delivery. Right. So in that case, you want to fill the tank in a couple of minutes, and boom, it drives all night long.
And keep going, yes. And so then a regular hybrid makes sense.
Right.
Keep it rolling.
Still, gasoline, come on.
Yeah.
I know how you are, Bob, but.
Yeah, no.
All right, so speaking of autonomous vehicles, there was some interesting news this week when Anthony Levandowski, who was with Google for a number of years, who decided to leave Google in 2016. He started in 2007 and left in 2016, and was alleged to have taken a whole bunch of information with him on the order of 14,000 files containing, and I quote, critical engineering information about the hardware used by Waymo for self-driving vehicles.
Their LiDAR technology.
Yeah. So he's been charged by the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of California. He's been indicted on 33 charges. He could conceivably go to jail for a very long time and pay a whole lot of money. Is this uncharacteristic of the auto industry?
To this level, yes. Yeah. I mean, there's been all kinds of property theft, espionage and whatnot. People have gone to jail, but I have never heard of, this kind of bail or bond and wearing a tether.
$300,000 bond, yeah.
Yeah, or taking away the taking away the passports has happened to some Chinese guys here in town that were walking out with stuff. They took their passport, but yeah, this is not very common.
Lot of technology transfer there. But the thing to me is this was 2016, and they cut a deal, right?
So
they settled on it.
Google
but
sued.
Then the feds come down 3 years later.
So Google sued, and they actually sued Google, or they sued Uber because Levandowski left Google, went to work for Uber, and brought the technology with him and sold the company OTTO, which was for trucks, right? And so then they settled, but the feds basically said, theft is theft, and we're gonna go after that.
Went after him personally.
Right.
Yeah.
And
well, it's interesting. Larry Burns, former head of R&D at General Motors, wrote a book called Autonomy, all about how this whole autonomous stuff really started. It's a great book, really, if you don't know the history of this. And the history is, only about 15 years old.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it only seems longer.
He didn't have, and Larry interviewed everybody, talked to everybody in this business. Yeah. Nobody liked Levandowski. Yeah, nobody.
Yeah. I was reading that piece, quoting him, talking about how nobody.
Yeah, there's no question the guy's brilliant. I mean, I think everybody agrees on that, but.
Levandowski?
Yeah. He
Larry Burns is too, but.
Well, yeah. But I mean, people didn't like him. Hey, we just got a quick correction. I said things wrong. I said, B. Wilson for Web, I think I know who that is, said, minor correction, John, you meant 4 miles per kilowatt hour, not 4 kilowatt hours per mile. And B. Wilson is correct.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
So I would argue that there was actually someone in the auto industry that perhaps was as rapacious as Mr. Levandowski is alleged to have been, and that would be Ignacio Lopez.
Oh yeah.
So
it was an exciting time.
So if we go back to the early '90s, that Lopez was basically the purchasing guy who was hired by General Motors, and he had a policy that sort of was the iron fist and an iron glove. And he then was persuaded to go to work for Volkswagen. And apparently when he went to Volkswagen, he brought a variety of files with him as well, which led to a lawsuit that was filed by General Motors against Volkswagen. And I didn't remember this, but
They never really got anywhere.
It did get somewhere.
Oh, yes, it
because
did.
in
It cost VW billions.
In 1997, in January 1997, there was an out-of-court settlement. Isn't it always convenient
Yeah,
they do
but
these things
that's
out
what
of
I'm
court?
saying.
Okay,
Yeah.
but as John's so according to a joint statement issued by the car makers, Volkswagen will make a $100 million payment to General Motors and its German subsidiary Opel, and VW will also buy $1 billion worth of parts from General Motors over the next 7 years.
Right.
So here we have a case where
But what about Lopez?
Well, Lopez stayed at VW.
I mean, he skated.
He skated,
Yeah,
essentially.
that's what I'm saying.
Right. Well,
We're talking about this guy now being charged with federal
Right.
crimes.
Well, remember, too, Germany does not have an extradition treaty with the
Yeah.
United
Yeah.
States. So he was largely untouchable, but Volkswagen, the company, was not untouchable, and that's why they got this deal. And by the way, that $1 billion in parts all went to Delphi.
Yeah.
Or almost the vast majority of it. It was a great little moneymaker
oh,
for Delphi.
so Volkswagen ended up buying all of these parts from Delphi?
Yeah.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Because this started before Delphi was spun off from General Motors. And I don't remember the exact timing, but even once it got spun off on its own, VW had to keep on buying those parts.
Yep.
All right, I got one more thing.
Okay.
Wild.
So the RV Industry Association, which we don't talk about enough, I know that you
Yeah, these are scary numbers. This
you
is
would
good
think
stuff,
that.
Gary. I'm glad you're bringing this up.
So,
You sure
so
this isn't something you want to save for a number, though?
you know, but see, I've already started it, so you know, I know, but you know, it's you know, I put my foot in it already, but so month over month from July of last year, looking at July to July, that wholesale shipments for RVs were down 23.2%. They're basically year over year down 20.6%.
Ooh. Womp,
So
womp,
think
womp.
about this. I mean, people who have disposable income presumably are buying RVs. Now we basically have 20% of them saying, can't do it.
Right.
What does that say about,
I think
the
this-
economy going forward?
Yeah, no, I think exactly right. I think this is a leading indicator for the economy. Look,
it's like the,
baby boomers are retiring, I don't know, what is the number, 6,000 every second or something like
Right,
that. It's a
right.
crazy number, right? And so
I'll see you
that's
guys later. I'm
yeah.
Yeah. Gotta go.
Your time's up.
Yeah, it's my second.
That's right. And so, you know, this has been on the opposite side when sales were booming, and they were booming up until, you know, last year.
Yeah.
That was a sign of, wow, you know, look how good the economy is going. But when you've got even more retirees hitting that, and that's who largely buys these things.
Yeah.
Not exclusively, but so many retirees are buying them.
Right.
And when you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of more customers becoming available and sales are not just dropping fast.
Right.
I think that's a leading indicator that there's problems out there in retirement land.
Well, and
It means gas will be cheap, though.
and you also
That'll get
looked
the
at
economy going again.
you looked at July to July. I was going to say maybe a year ago was a peak anomaly or something, but you know it seems like July is a good month. If you're going to
buy an RV.
If you're going to buy an RV, that's your time. You're going
Right.
to get out, get on the road with it then, so that you can shake it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like what your inverted bond curve as a sign.
I need to have Anthony Levandowski explain that to me because I just, you know,
it's either that or the tiny house market is huge. Is that a possibility? Maybe?
Maybe that's it.
Maybe
So they're not buying
or
RVs.
Those little teardrop trailers, you know. But Harley sales are down too. That's a problem.
Yeah,
See,
well, that's
all
another
these-
demographic
another
rate that is coming
indicator
to
like
an end.
that. Yeah. So
Hey, we've got two questions here that came in. Brian wants to know, how big of an impact is the Porsche Taycan going to have on Tesla Model S or Model 3 sales?
how's it priced by comparison? I mean,
Taycan's pretty expensive, way more expensive than a Model 3.
yeah, way more than
But, you know, top end fully loaded Model S, probably not a whole lot more expensive than that.
Seems like it should punch right into it.
Here, we got a
it's
picture of it
Porsche.
up here.
It's a Porsche. you
All I
know,
can say,
and it's-
what do you think, Gary?
Well, okay. It will be a novelty. Okay, it will sell, and everybody will go, "Woo! Look! It's attacking Tesla!" Ah. Okay. How many cars have we've seen the Audi e-tron is out there. Oh, it's going to make Tesla
The
tumble,
iPace.
the iPay, all these cars are coming out, and will they have an effect? Yes. Will it be a sustainable effect? I mean, is Porsche going all in on this the way that Tesla has done?
Yeah.
And will this be available at all price points? I mean, it's just like, okay. You remember when the Acura NSX first came out? I mean, the first edition, and you go to Silicon Valley and you suddenly see these things all over the place. And I mean, here's this all aluminum vehicle, and this is the technological. How'd that work out for Acura?
Yeah, right.
Right.
Not at
I mean,
all.
so it's like, yeah, it's going to be.
Here, I got one thing for the control room. You got the picture of the Taycan. Can you get a picture also of the Mission E? The concept car that this was based on, because I'd like to get a comparo and make a point about that, because I wondered what the hell happened. I was dumbfounded when I saw the Mission E. I mean, I stopped in my tracks,
Right.
and it just went, wow, there's the future. That thing is drop dead gorgeous. Then they brink out, okay, here's the
Yeah,
Mission E.
there you go. Yeah.
Look at that front end, especially.
Right.
And I don't know, can we toggle back to the Taycan? I think that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
But
like, wow.
concept, big wheels.
And then I look
all
at
of
this,
that,
and it's,
you know.
geez, it looks like a Nissan Z car.
Yeah, they
what
lost
the hell
They
happened?
lost the cool vents in the front.
I mean,
I mean,
Well, I mean, if you look,
Concept.
okay, so you look at that is athletic, that is taut.
Right.
You go to the black one, and it's sort of like bloated, and it's just
golly,
like
I
sort
mean,
of
it's
slightly.
like-
Maybe
it
the
looks like,
picture makes it look ungainly.
this almost looks like a camoed future 911 to me.
So what do you think, John? Is it gonna?
I'm with you, Gary. I think the Taycan's going to have a novelty, and people in the Valley will especially buy them because everyone's got a Tesla, so you got to get something else.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to make that big of a dent in Tesla sales. We need to learn more about it. What's the over-the-air capabilities? We've seen pictures of the interior. How usable is it versus the big screen in the Tesla? What kind of semi-autonomous capabilities does it have? Even though they're putting in fast chargers at Porsche dealerships, I don't want to drive to a dealership to charge up my car.
But that could be the thing that drives it more than anything, is that supercharging capability. If you could somehow rig that in your home or in your office,
Well,
now
you
you're
can't.
into
You can't.
now you're into a major.
The lights dim.
I hear that Porsche dealers are damn near
I
revolted
mean, don't you have
about
to?
the
You
expense
have to
of
have
putting
like
these things.
cooling lines, right?
Yeah, no, they have
go
to be
with the
liquid-cooled charging line, or
liquid-cooled-
the thing
yeah.
will melt.
Right.
That's how much juice is going through.
Yeah.
But they're putting them at dealerships. Tesla was brilliant in going out and figuring out highways across the United States, and China and Europe, where's the best place to put these stations?
Yeah.
And they didn't put them at Tesla stores. They put them where they're going to be convenient.
Yeah.
I think Porsche's blown it with their approach to this charging.
But then the car comes to the dealer too.
Yeah, not many are going to go there,
Opportunity.
believe
there won't,
me.
Yeah, there won't be a ton of them.
I'll tell you another one.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think that the Taycan will be a bit of a novelty, and I think Tesla is going to continue to grow. Okay, one last thing. Steve A. from Springfield, Pennsylvania. He's got a long one here, but I'm going to boil it down. He says car companies are putting all this money into, all these autonomous vehicles. No one's getting a return on this right now. He says, I just don't see an ROI on the billions that OEMs are spending. What are your thoughts on this?
It's all in ADAS, adaptive driving assistive systems in premium and luxury vehicles. That's where they're getting their return in the short run. Until they can get this stuff fully up to speed, you can drive an Audi that knows that you're turning at the next corner and starts slowing down for you. I'm surprised the thing doesn't turn the corner for you. I just drove and it's not necessarily that high a priced luxury vehicles. The Mercedes-Benz A220 does the same thing. It's route-based adaptive cruise control where it knows that your route is going to take you onto an exit ramp and it starts slowing down to exit ramp speed. You can power through it if you want to, but that's the kind of things where they can upsell that onto all of these premium vehicles where people will pay for it, not a inexpensive vehicle. And
So lots of money to be made right now in level 2.
Right now in level 2, that's able to fund all that investment. That's the only way they're going to do it, at least.
Gary, your thoughts?
I think they're going to lose money hand over fist and never make any of it back.
Wow.
A lot of money going into it.
Where's the return?
Well, the returns, not now, that's for sure. But, look at all the money that they've poured into electric vehicles. Nobody makes a dime on that technology, but you got to do it.
Right.
And I think that's where we're at with autonomy. At some point, the needle will flip over and there'll be money to be made, but it's years down the road.
See, I think the problem is that, the industry was created under a different model. Okay, the industry was made under a model where you would buy a car, and Bob, you'd buy that Gravity there, right there,
right,
and I'd buy a car.
Of course, I'd want it as a hybrid, just to be clear.
All right,
go ahead.
All right.
Yeah.
But we would individually own these things. They would not be parts of fleets. They would not be, transportation systems. They would not be mobility as a service.
Yeah.
They'd be cars that we'd have in our garages and in our driveways and then parked in front of our houses, right? But now we're talking about transforming the industry such that there is a big service component to our getting from here to there, and that we may not buy cars, we may buy a service plan that allow us to go places, right?
Right.
Okay, what happens to all those factories? What happens to all those people? What happened? I mean, go back to, you were mentioning Henry Ford earlier. I mean, remember his $5 a day? Because why did he do that? Not because he was a nice man. He wanted the people who worked in his factories to buy cars.
Yeah.
Well, actually, it goes even deeper than that. They were bribing them to stay on the line because their turnover was horrific, horrific. Because they went from what they called staged assembly, where workers would build cars as teams and do all the work on one car. And when they broke that up into the division of labor and you just stood there on the line like a monkey and did repetitive tasks all day long, people said, I'm out of here. That's why they did the $5 day. And then they prettied it up saying, oh, now our workers can afford to buy their cars. Believe me, they were bribing them to stay on. I'll give you a figure here. In 1913, Ford had 15,000 people working at its Highland Park plant. Wow. 15,000.
Wow.
1913 is when they introduced the moving assembly line. 3 months later, 12,000 of those people had quit.
Wow.
That's what the turnover was.
That's what they
and now there was huge amounts of immigration, so they had all kinds of people bringing in that they could bring in. The only way they could keep them is pay them $5 a day.
And they could all become Uber drivers.
Tin Lizzie drivers.
But to your point though, you're saying everything's going to shut down because mobility.
No, I'm saying that you have
because of mobility as a service, and we already talked about how 4 years and out you're going to use a vehicle up in 4 years, according to
right. But that's
your
because
guy.
because you'll be in it and I'll be in it,
Right.
and John will be in it, and,
Correct.
and Mark Bosanac will be in it.
It will be. These vehicles won't sit for 18 hours, 20 hours out of a day in a parking space. They'll be operating 24/7.
Right.
That's the theory. But
That's the
I'm just
theory.
But I'm just saying that
And
this
when
is.
you add in the delivery service concept, which I think is smart, you can fill in those gaps in in the vehicle's service time.
But what I'm saying is that, okay,
They didn't
if
stop.
all
They don't
this
stop building airplanes because, flying is a service. You buy mobility. You don't own the aircraft.
Right.
And they're still punching out. Heck, they're still punching out 737 Maxes, aren't they? Awaiting
Somewhere.
approval. So. I mean, you still have to build the vehicles to support the mobility system.
Do you build 17.5?
You may build different types.
I think you'll build far less.
Yeah.
And I think that factory jobs, many factory jobs will go the way of elevator operators and telephone operators and bank tellers and,
where will they go though? And where they will go is potentially into a dealership where they're working on that fleet, keeping it up to speed. A lot more of that service work.
But why would there be a dealership?
Well,
there may not be.
Right.
I think a dealership is, if they're smart, they're in a prime position right now to grab that business.
Yeah.
Because if they can figure out the costs, they're the ones who have the vehicles.
Well,
and they're in prime locations.
We're getting into a great topic that should be for a whole nother show.
Yeah. He asked the question.
Yeah, that's right.
I thought he asked the question.
Well, he might ask the question. Somebody asked the question.
Anyway.
He asked the question.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
yeah,
he asked the question.
That's right.
There you go.
Hey, but let's wrap this up anyway. Bob Gritzinger, thanks so much for coming on.
Great to be here. Always good to see you guys.
And Gary, we're going to just keep on doing this.
Absolutely.
And of course, we always want to thank all of you for having tuned in.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone Tires, your journey, our passion. Lear, a global leader in automotive seating and electrical systems. And by Borg Warner, propulsion solutions that support a clean, energy-efficient world.
Visit our website, Autoline.tv, where you can watch us live Thursday afternoons. Get your daily fix with Autoline Daily and in-depth analysis and interviews with Autoline This Week. There's all that and much more at Autoline.tv.